Welcome to the Lucid Narrative Story Hour. Thanks for joining us today. Story Hour is an inquiry into someone's individual story in a way that hopefully inspires us to see our own lives and our world from a new and expanded perspective. At the time of this writing, some places in the United States are easing pandemic lockdown measures, so parts of our culture are reactivating. We don't really know what will come next, but it appears that the national and international commonality, stay at home and isolation, is shifting to something less uniform. As our shared experience starts to partition, maybe it would be good to really lock the common human experience into our memories. We are all human beings, and we have had a recent, vivid experience of that reality. If we remember our common humanity and how we have all come through a shared experience, perhaps we can embrace our differences more comfortably. Our story today is an invitation to be inspired by human diversity and variety. Through our story, we can be reminded how embracing diversity, stepping into rather than back from meeting a stranger, can be a beautiful and enlightening experience. Sometimes, things that are the most foreign give us beautiful surprises. Fortunately, in life we all have frequent opportunities to embrace something new or unfamiliar, and we learn and grow as a result. Today's story begins in upstate New York, in a small country suburb of Buffalo, to be exact. Not far from Buffalo, one can visit Niagara Falls, an exquisite natural resource that was formed by the same glaciers that created the Great Lakes, maybe 12,000 to 16,000 years ago. The Niagara River is actually a strait, a channel, joining Lake Erie with Lake Ontario. It's 36 miles long. Water drops over 160 feet in 3 falls. What is really difficult to grasp if you've never been there is the volume of water. Over 3,000 tons of water falls every second. And as a point of reference, an elephant weighs under 7 tons. These waterfalls generate electric power for consumers in both Canada and the United States. Niagara Falls offer awe-inspiring natural beauty and have a global reputation. Visitors come from all over the country and the world to experience them. Niagara Falls is part of Sande's story because Sande's family frequently took visitors there. The family was active in a program called Buffalo World Hospitality. So Sande remembers that throughout her early childhood and into her teenage years, the family hosted visitors from around the world. Once or twice a month, strangers would come and stay with the family for a weekend or a week. The family would house them, feed them, get to know them, and show them around. They often visited Niagara Falls. Visitors spoke different languages and represented a wide variety of cultures and backgrounds. Sande's mother may have been the impetus for participating in this program. Before getting married, Sande's mom lived in an international world. She was fluent in 5 languages and was an interpreter for the airlines. Like other smart, motivated women of her era, Mom was incredibly capable and accomplished. Many of us know or know of women like Sande's mom, who offer a wonderful source of inspiration because of their deep skills and broad talents. Their legacy also has a darker side. Like many of her peers, Sande's mom abandoned her worldly success to be a wife and a mother. Women like Sande's mom helped to shape our culture after World War II, and their influence was often cut short as they gave up careers to support husbands and raise children. Her mom's success in her work as a linguist and translator would have required Sande's mom to develop expert intercultural skills. She would have needed a deep appreciation for the nuances of language, and she may have been adept at understanding diverse geopolitical backgrounds. In any case, she would have had to learn enough about where an individual was coming from to be able to communicate U.S. norms to a foreigner. In the 1940s and 1950s, the airline industry as we know it was just beginning. So we can only imagine some of the conversations Mom had as an American representative to individual international travelers. As a result of her family's participation in the Buffalo World Hospitality Program, Sande grew up surrounded by people from all kinds of cultures, backgrounds, religions, and experiences. It infused her sensibilities with a deep appreciation for the richness of humanity. Another foundational piece of Sande's background was her family's Christianity. Her parents were good church-going Christians, mostly. Sande confesses that every Sunday, she and her two sisters were dressed properly, taken to church, and dropped off. Imagine 3 little girls walking into church, sitting in the first pew, and paying close attention to the service and sermon. They were well-behaved and respectful, quiet and attentive. After church, they went home, and their parents thoroughly quizzed them. What was the reading? What was the sermon about? What did they learn? I'm sure they reported admirably. I'm sure it was great practice for school and academic learning. It's a good reminder that things are not always as they appear. In any case, the girls performed well, honoring their parents and family in the broader community. Talking about her youthful church experience, Sande recalls a particular moment. She was maybe 6 or 7 years old and in Sunday school. The presentation, I'm imagining that it was more of a presentation than a discussion, was about missionary work. I imagine the class was listening to a church elder. In Sande's story, the children were being taught about the importance of missionary work. Now, I'm sure missionary work comes in many forms. In Sande's story, the emphasis was on changing people's beliefs. Young Sande listened to this. At some point, she raised her hand to ask a question. Well, of course, she was a good little girl who never caused trouble, so her question was welcomed. Why, she asked, is it okay to tell someone what they should believe? Children have a way of asking the most penetrating questions. I'm sure that one was a showstopper. Sande went to elementary, junior high, and high school in the Buffalo area. She was an excellent student. She has natural scholarly abilities, and it was also very important to stay out of trouble and please her parents, who valued education highly. She recalls elementary school as a wonderful time. She had lots of good, close friends. In fact, she says she felt like she owned the place. The elementary school was small, and the kids all grew up together. They had built relationships and trust over time and experience. Things got tougher after elementary school. The junior high was a big school. It sounds like the education feeder system that is common across the United States. Smaller schools feed into larger ones. The argument is that students keep their existing friendships because they all move to a larger school together. There are certainly efficiencies in the use of school facilities, teachers, and other resources. It doesn't always work as well in practice as it does in theory. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work well for children. Sandy shared that she felt like she suddenly disappeared when she went to junior high. High school got a little easier, in part because she learned to play the violin, joined the school orchestra, and began to play team sports. Sandy recalls that her large public high school also offered vocational training, which is worth taking a minute to think about. Some kids are naturally studious and scholarly. Some easily adapt to these modes of learning, and some struggle. It used to be standard for public schools to offer vocational education, which was training geared towards a specific occupation. Anything from being an airline pilot to a woodworker could be included. The key elements were specific skills, on-the-job training, and work experience. Suffice it to say that if you've ever needed a car mechanic, you can appreciate vocational education. Since the late 1980s, vocational education has become increasingly stigmatized as the push for every student to attend college has intensified. Sandy is the scholarly type. She loves to read, study, and write. During high school, she decided she wanted to become a journalist or a reporter. She asked herself how she might stand out in a competitive field. In her assessment, and likely because of her mom's background and influence, she determined that learning an exotic foreign language would help. At the time, very few people in the United States spoke Russian or Chinese. What better way to stand out of the crowd? She chose to attend a liberal arts college that was known for foreign language studies. So she went off to college. As is customary for first-year college students, she was assigned to an advisor, someone who could guide and counsel her. They met early in the fall of her first semester. As they were getting acquainted, she was asked what she wanted to do with her life. She shared her dream of being a reporter. Her advisor laughed in her face. Basically, she was told that she didn't have the personality to be a reporter. She was told that reporters need to be aggressive, and she didn't meet this criterion. So Sandy gave up her reporting dream. Many of us would have been devastated to have our dreams dashed so quickly. Fortunately, Sandy wasn't. She listened and adapted. She let go of her dream to be a reporter, but she was still curious about the idea of learning Russian or Chinese. Chinese was a particular challenge. She took an introductory class, and in her first few weeks of studying the language, she was hooked. She marveled at the way characters are put together and communicate differently than letters and phonetics. As she learned to read Chinese, she pored over original manuscripts from ancient Chinese sages. They were poetic and beautiful, and she was both challenged and inspired. Studying Chinese was wonderful, but in the back of Sandy's mind there was a nagging voice. What am I going to do with this? Writers of ancient China had captivated Sandy. Modern Chinese culture was a different situation. This discouraged her from considering a career focused on China. So Sandy's career was uncertain when she finished her studies, but she lucked into a job with Prentice Hall, a major education publishing company. She found that she has a deep passion for education, and education as a field encompasses everything she cares deeply about. In hindsight, it appears that Sandy's decision to pursue a challenge, mastering Chinese, helped her to build an inner strength and resilience. Her early years with strangers had prepared her to embrace different cultures and experiences and to learn from foreign values, opinions, and perspectives. Sandy has an unshakable belief in the value of every human being. She's dedicated her career to helping people join together in powerful teams, and these teams help students across our country succeed in different endeavors. Sandy's childhood experience is unusual. but applies to all our lives. The more often we open ourselves to new people and their experiences, the more we become comfortable with new people and their experiences. It's possible the reverse may also be true. In other words, if we live narrowly defined lives where we only talk to, see, or interact with people who are similar to ourselves, could we become afraid of people who seem to be different? Our world is united by economics, environment, and now disease. So today's story is an invitation and a challenge to us all. Can we remember that our humanity unites us and step wholeheartedly with curiosity into embracing the diverse potential offered by every individual? After what we've been living through these past couple of months, I'm confident we're all up to this challenge. This has been Story Hour with Lucid Narratives. Thanks for listening.